Hey guys, welcome back to the Outfitter Connection podcast. This week we have a really good friend of mine, Mr. Adam Atkinson, over in New Mexico on this week. How are you doing, buddy?
Oh, not bad, man. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely, dude. It's awesome to have you on. I always enjoy your posts and stuff because you are always hunting something somewhere.
Yeah, it's gotten to be a good passion of mine in the last probably 8 years. It's kind of taken over as a lifestyle.
If you don't mind, kind of dive into a little bit about like who you are, what you do. You work in the oil and gas industry. You do a few other things, and then you travel abroad a couple times a year, I think, to go hunt
Yeah,
overseas. If you would like
it,
kind of just give people a brief synopsis of all that.
yeah, no problem. Like I said, my name's Adam Atkinson. I work in the oil and gas fields here in New Mexico, and I was born and raised in Wyoming. That's always been a big passion of mine. Um, And to me, I grew up, enjoying the outdoors, fishing, a little bit of hunting. I've always had uncles, my dad, willing to take me out. And then when I got older and going to school and things like that, it obviously it subsided and kind of went on the back burners. And after now, making my own money and saving and things like that, I decided, let's really focus on hunting. Let's really try to you see these Jim Shockeys, Jay Allen Smiths that travel the world and do all this stuff. And it's like, well, I want to do that. And so I take, a little bit of my money and store it away. And then every year I plan, I'll do hunting trips here in the States, but then I try to plan two international hunts every year, whether it be Canada or go over to Africa twice or what. Lately, I've been on a big Africa kick. In the last 4 years, I've gone over every single year now.
Awesome.
I have planned to go over again in May, with an outfit, and we're gonna do lion, hippo, and giraffe.
That's awesome. Like you're crossing off some like when I say big ticket items, I don't mean in a monetary sense, but like some really big animals. You've you've
Yeah.
done your you've done your cape now as well,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. I did my cape with the crossbow, and then I've done a crocodile as well.
Dude, that's nuts. And there's this weird misconception about Africa that it's like almost unobtainable, right? But it's really not. It's actually like your airfare sometimes, depends on what you're going over there for, but your airfare almost costs maybe half of what your package cost at times, or
Oh,
your
one hundred
airfare
percent,
might cost more.
100%. Like it wasn't until 2021 that I decided like, hey, maybe hunting here in the States, because I have noticed, here in the United States, it has gotten. It seems like every year, it's gotten a little bit harder and harder to draw a tag. And so for me, it's like, well, if I want to have that niche and that drive to where I'm hunting every single year and not waiting on a tag, and this doesn't take away from any of the guys that do the DIY or any of that type of stuff, but I just enjoy the passion of the outdoors, and I enjoy the passion of hunting. And it's not even at the end of the day, it's not even harvesting an animal, but it's the experience of where you're going, what you're doing, and what you get to in what you get to see. And since 2021, dude, Africa is, people don't understand, but Africa is so much cheaper. Now we're talking plains game, like, and until you get into like the dangerous seven and things like that, we're talking plains game. It's so much cheaper to go hunt over there rather than to try to get an outfit for, say, a trophy bull elk. You know, a trophy bull elk can, depend on what area you get into and where you're at, it can go from $10,000 to $20,000. That's five animals, seven animals in Africa.
If you're going over there with like the idea of, I want to shoot, and granted, prices are different with everywhere you go in Africa, right? Like there's no set standard of pricing. But like
No.
I know with who you go with, like Impala are like 300 or 400 bucks.
Yep.
Stateside, they're 7 grand.
Exactly. That's what I try to tell people. Like, dude, because people are like, oh, well, you can hunt that in Texas. Granted, you can, 100%. You can hunt that in Texas, but you're gonna pay quadruple the amount it's gonna cost you to go hunt it here in the States, rather it is to hunt it in Africa.
Right. Like you could go hunt a bull sable over there for what, 4,900, 5 grand, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah, in that neighborhood for sure.
Well, stateside, you're looking at almost $19,000.
Yeah, oh, 100%. And then like kudu, you can do a kudu in South Africa from 28 to $3,000, and here in Texas, it'll be from 20 to $25,000.
And that's, it's there's a benefit to both, right? You go to Africa, and this is coming from myself that's never been to Africa, but you
Right,
can go to Africa and hunt it and save yourself a whole lot of money. The downside is you don't get to come home with the meat, you don't get to come home with the trophy right away. Hunting it stateside, you can shoot it, process it, and taxidermy it all before you get a majority of your stuff back from your trip to Africa. But that comes with a convenience cost, is kind of what I call it.
right,
You're paying a premium for the convenience of like, oh, it's home, it's stateside. All I got to do is shoot it, throw it in my cooler, take it to my taxidermist, who may take 6 months to a year to 2 years or 3 years, depends on your taxidermist. And I'm
right,
going to spend anywhere between you know $800 to $1,200 getting it mounted stateside versus shipping it. If you go to Africa and you shoot a bunch of stuff, you can ship it, all of your stuff, to your taxidermist,
yep.
but it's going to take about what, 6 months to a year before you see your crate.
The fastest I've in the 4 years that I've done it, the fastest that I've seen it is about 4 months. The longest I've seen it is a year.
So yeah, I mean, your taxidermist gets a hold of it stateside, and it's going to take him another 6 months to 2 or 3 years, however,
Right,
somewhere in there to get it done. So you're still looking at about maybe a little extra time from the time it gets
right.
back to stateside till you get it done, which isn't awful.
No, and my thing is this, and this is like I don't know. I'm very particular on. I like going into the places where I'm hunting and shooting the animals that are native to that area. Okay, granted, like it's hard to do like axis and black buck going over to Indonesia. Okay, I would much rather do like an axis, a black buck, or an aoudad, whether it be New Mexico over the counter, or for instance, I last year I shot an axis in Texas on a game ranch. You know those I can see doing here in the States, but dude, if I'm gonna go shoot some African animals, I want to go experience Africa. And granted, it's South Africa, so it's a little bit different where you're not like in South Africa. It's kind of I'll say it's kind of like Texas. Every game farm has to be fenced.
And
So
it's not so much to keep the animals in, it's to keep the poachers out.
100%. Yep. So
Be-
and I'm glad you brought that up. That's it's not mainly, yeah, like you said, it's not mainly to keep the animals, out from each other. It's try to keep poaching and people that are trying to break in and trespass out from, killing animals that are unauthorized. Um and so it's a little bit different than if you were to go to Zambia, Tanzania, Mozambique, where you're actually hunting like wild, free range Africa. So there's a little difference, and there's, in my little bit that I've been doing this, there's a little bit misconstrued from South Africa to like Namibia, Tanzania, and like wild Africa, because you're not hunting on, yes, you're hunting on like a concession, but there's like no fence. You know what I mean?
and it's the outfit that you go with in Africa, it's not a small place, right? So in Texas,
No,
and I'm sure there are places like this over in Africa, but where you guys hunt in Africa, it's not a small ranch. like some of the ranches here in Texas, you could go to a high fence in Texas and hunt it, and it might be 300, 400, 250, 75,
Right.
10, 5 acre,
Plots.
fenced in properties.
Yep.
But over there, you guys are hunting on
I believe it's like 34,000 acres.
which is a metric shit ton of land.
Oh, dude, me and the PH that I was with, which is PH's professional hunter,
Mhm.
um, we were hunting eland and we were tracking them and things like that and trying to get in and make a good ethical kill. And we followed this herd for 10 miles and we still didn't touch the other side of the fence. It was brutal.
And it's not like you guys are like busting brush when you're driving through the ranch, right? It's not like you're
No,
you're just take a right and go off-roading and go bouncing through the rocks and the trees and all that shit. That
no.
ranch actually has a pretty solid road system from
Oh,
what I've seen.
100%. 100%. So like they have like an awesome network and I don't even know the terminology of what you'd say, but like I'd almost can put it towards like infrastructure, like the access ways that they have to get around into different areas and things like that. Super nice sand roads, and then say we spot some animals, and they'll do it either way. You can shoot the animals out of the truck, or you get out, make your spot and stock. I go by whatever best opportunity comes up. Like, so say we were going for Impala and all of a sudden one just jumps the road. I'm not going to purposely get out and try to track it to shoot it. I'm one of those hunters where if the opportunity presents itself and I'm in the truck, I'll take it. If it presents itself and we have to do some, spot and stalk and make a cut around and make a good shot, then let's do it. But I'm not going to waste, I'm not going over there to waste my opportunity just to make it to where I have to spot and stalk every animal.
You're going over there with a dedicated purpose, like I'm gonna go over there and shoot XYZ, and if LMNO shows up, great, I'll take one of those as well. But I'm primarily there for this, and this, right?
Yeah. So my biggest, so in 2022, I kind of went over there with like, the terminology of an open checkbook. I had an idea of how much I wanted to spend, and I kind of let them know, like, hey, look, this is where I kind of want to be. Um, prior to going over there, I knew that they had some awesome golden wildebeest, and then me seeing their big crocs that they had on their property. Those two, the golden wildebeest and the croc, were the two like number one things on the list. But after that, man, it was like, hey, if we can get this, great. If we can get this, great. Um, and dude, they delivered like every time I've been over there. Whether we hunted at night on some of the night critters or whether we hunted during the day. Um, and I ended up taking 14 animals.
Jeez, oh Pete. You came home with a haul after that trip.
Yeah, so I came back with 14 animals. Um, and dude, it was just a rush. Like, I mean, and what's crazy about it is there was a few days where I didn't shoot a single animal, but there's also days where I shot four or five. You
And
know,
it's from the way you explain it, and a mutual friend of ours explains it. It's not like you're going to the Serengeti, right? Where there's just
no.
50,000 wildebeest roaming, and there's 50 giraffes and 100 elephants. It is kind of, they're a little more elusive. The animals are more
Oh,
elusive there than a lot of places.
100%. Because dude, it's like anything else. Like, dude, it's still. I mean, with the amount of area that they have, like some of the animals that I had taken, they had never. Because normally, I mean, they drive around in the lower parts of their property and things like that. Some of the animals that I took, they never even, they have a good recollection of what animals look like and things like that, of that they see commonly. And some of the animals, they're like, dude, we didn't even know this was on our property.
Yeah, on 30,000, 34,000 acres. there's a very high likelihood that there are animals that have died from old age, not disease, not predators, but just pure old age.
It's just wild how big and how vast that area is. And dude, if you get over there, the cool thing about it is like, and it's honestly most common with most places in Africa, that usually what's on your package, like if you don't kill that animal, 90% of the time they'll be like, okay, well we've been seeing a lot of this animal, we'll swap it out for you. Like you can shoot this and we'll trade it for, you know, same this for that.
There's this weird common misconception. I don't know where it came from, and I don't know why it's a thing. But everybody that I talk to that like has gone to Africa, outside of yours and I's friend group, there's this weird misconception that like, oh, I'm gonna go to Africa, but I'm gonna beat them down on prices. They want 10,000 or 12,000 for a Cape Buffalo. I'm gonna talk them down to 7,000, and whenever they tell me they'll take nine for it, I'll shoot it. Where do you think that came from? And why do you think that is a thing?
I think because it's part of it, I look at it as, and this is just based off of my own opinion. I think because they think like it's a third world country, you know, that I feel like they think anything and everything is negotiable, you know. Um, to me, a lot of times too, is I think it gets the misconception of other outfitters doing that. that
Like,
that's just that's just my personal opinion, and I think also it happens when people have maybe a poor experience going over to Africa.
well, and that kind of leads into almost the direction that I want to steer this episode into. How important is it whenever you're booking into another country, a hunt in a different country or a different place? How important is it to really dive in and learn about who you're trying to go with before you book?
Oh dude, it's like it makes the hunt a night and day difference. So
Mhm.
I've done um I've done with two different outfitters in Africa. Both have been well known through like other hunters that I know and other friends that I personally know that have like set me in that direction. Um, because I'll get feedback on, okay, someone's like, oh yeah, I had a really good time here. I'll call them up and ask them like, hey, what do you do for this? What do what do charge your clients? And I'll start asking them questions of like, do you guide? How long have you been guiding and things like that? And the biggest thing too is going over to like anytime, like pretty much every first part of the year where they do the expo shows, where you can go in and do like SCI in Nashville, and you can do like, hey, look, this is what, not necessarily what you expect of the client, but so the client doesn't get like I take the mentality of like drinking out of a fire hose. Like, look, this is what the type of terrain that we're going to be in. This is the list that you need to have.
For as far as a
And
gear list.
as far as like a gear list, exactly, and kind of let them know like, hey, look, we more than likely will be walking or hiking, 5 to 7 miles a day. I talked to a really good friend of mine who does mountain goat hunts, and we chatted for a good long time, and he was like, dude, but I'll be honest, we probably walk and hike and glass probably 10 miles a day looking for a good trophy mountain goat.
Right.
And I think a lot of times where people get mixed in with having like when they say, oh, I had a bad outfitter, I think it's due on both sides, where maybe the outfitter didn't tell like, hey, look, this is what it's going to entail and what we're going to be doing. And it's also on the client's bad, like not doing enough research of what's going to go into this hunt.
For sure. Like I've run into that several times with even what I do. You explain to clients how rough the terrain is, what to bring, what they need, and they bring, and I don't really know. It's not that you have to go buy the Sitka gear, the Badlands gear, the Kuyu gear. Buy the best gear that you can afford, but
Right.
also know what you're buying and what its actual use is for. So I
Right.
wouldn't, I've never done an elk, right? But I wouldn't take a day pack to go on a backcountry elk hunt.
Right. No. And not only that, I mean, obviously, in being in the outfitter business too, you instead of just going on this wild whim of like, say, you do a DIY elk hunt, you would pour in some good amount of time of research and talking to other outfitters and other people that maybe you've hunted with and things like that, of like, what's the necessities that I really need to focus on in bringing. I went and did a coastal black bear hunt. I had no idea what I needed to bring. And so I called up the guide and was like, "Hey dude, I need a gear list. What do I need to bring? Are we going to be in tents?" And he's like, "No, dude, we're going to be on a boat." And I was like a ship? And he's like, "Yeah, it's like a basically like a 40-foot kind of yacht, and we'll sleep on it, and we pull two skiffs behind us until we get to where we're gonna stay, and then we take the skiffs inshore and just follow the coastline till we start seeing some bears, and then we hang out and watch for a good boar to come out into the grass, and then we make our stalk up to it." And after talking with him, and we made a good gear list of what I needed. Yeah, there's a few things I had to go out and buy. Like I didn't have wader boots and things like that. But his biggest thing was just make sure you bring a pack. You have your rain gear and you bring a pack that's waterproof. That way you can keep all your clothes and things like that dry, because there's not a lot of storage on the boat. So your bag's gonna have to be outside. So if it rains, it's got to be waterproof. And so that's my thing is I feel sometimes clientele don't do their own research and their own justification to make it sure that it's not necessarily just on the outfitter, but it needs to be on the client as well, knowing what they're getting into when they sign up for these hunts.
Absolutely. Because as a guide and outfitter, like I can only do so much explaining as to like what gear you need to bring, right?
Right.
I can give you a 50-piece list of like this is going to make your hunt easier. These are the essentials, these are the necessities, these are like to make your day comfortable while you're out there. And then the rest of this is just kind of optional.
Right.
If you choose not to bring the necessities or the the proper gear, you're going to have a pretty awful hunt.
No, and 100%. Absolutely. And that's the thing is like, when I first went over to Africa, I didn't know what I needed, partially because it was kind of short notice. And so when I went over there, I brought 7 days worth of clothes. I brought like my big hiking boots. I bought a lot of my stuff just because I wanted to make sure I was prepared for every situation that could arise. Well, now that I've been over there, dude, I bring the clothes that I wear and two other changing clothes because I know they do laundry every day. I know what they have on site and all that stuff. Um, and so like clothes wise, like going to Africa, like dude, the amenities there, it's like almost like going to a luxury 5-star resort, but you get a hunt too.
It'd be like going to Cabo or pick your destination, but
Yes.
you're getting to hunt while you're there, which is really cool because, like I said, between you and our mutual friend that goes over there, it doesn't sound like while you're there at that facility, it doesn't sound like you feel like you're in a third world country, even though as soon as you leave that place or you start driving into the cities, you can definitely tell.
Yes.
Did you have any like safety concerns your first trip over there? Like, man, this is a third world country. Am I going to get, because you hear a lot of stuff in South Africa about
You know,
the reparations, the
my biggest concern, honestly, was just making sure I get to the right destination and I don't miss my flights.
because that can be a hassle to get either there or back.
You know, I brought in 2022 when I did that big trip, I brought some coworkers with me over there, and they flew out of Oklahoma. Well, their flights and everything got all screwed up, and we were supposed to meet in Atlanta and come straight down. Well, they missed that flight, and so they had to fly from Atlanta and go to Frankfurt, Germany, stay the night in Frankfurt, Germany, and fly into Johannesburg the next day.
It's not like where you guys go hunt in Africa. It's not like it's a 15-20 minute drive to the ranch. You're on the road for what, like 3 or 4 hours?
Yeah, yeah, it's like 3.5 hours. So like so you fly into Johannesburg, and then they're in what's called the Lafale, I believe, like Limpopo province,
Mhm.
and it's like a three to 4 hour drive to their camp from the airport.
It's crazy to think that, I mean, with me living in Texas, right? It's nothing for me to jump in the truck and drive 4 or 5 hours in any direction to go do something. But
Yep,
like, because I've never experienced another country, it's just wild to think like you land in Johannesburg and then you still, you just got off of a 17 or a 19-hour flight, and then you've
yep,
still got 3.5, 4 hours by vehicle to get to where you're going. Like
yeah,
I'm fairly certain you're pretty worn out by the time you get off the plane, and then to still have that drive. Although I guess there would be a little bit of anticipation once you land. Like, oh sweet, like I've only got one more leg of this journey to get there, and like it's game on.
yeah. Well, and too honestly, like I've become such good friends with these guys, um, that like I mean, they come over to the states and do the expos, and I help them out there and things like that. But when I go over there, dude, I found my own little niche, like because you have like your own little TV screen and things like that. You can watch movies, you can sleep, you can do whatever. I mean, you got 16 hours of fly time on one of the legs. And so I'll try to do is I try to stay up for the first, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours, like watching TV and movies and getting up and walking around. And then knowing when I have like the last like 8 hours of the flight, I take some ZQuil with me, some sleep aids, and I'll pull my little blinders on and curl up in my little blanket and pillow and try to rack out for the last 6 hours, so that way when I land, I'm just not beat.
This jet lag is real.
Lately, the last few times, my first trip, I kind of had it bad, but when I found like my little niche of like what helped and what I found that helped, I haven't had that big of an issue when I've flown over there.
So you have this like set schedule or routine every time you fly over there now, where it's like I'm gonna stay up for a few hours and then I'm gonna crash out the last couple hours of the flight. So whenever I'm there, like I'm good to go.
Yep. I mean, granted, it's wild because you'll leave the United States like around like 9 or 10 at night,
Mhm.
but then you won't land into Johannesburg until like 6 or 7 the following night.
It's a long time to be stuck in a
Oh, it's a it's a rat trap, dude. Because I've had so the 3 trips I've gone over there now, I've had one crappy flight, and then a mediocre flight, and then I had like my last flight I was over there, I had an awesome flight. The people that I sat next to, you know, weren't loud or noisy or having to keep getting up and down to go to the bathroom or anything like that. Like it was nice. So I mean, obviously the, the world's big, but also very, very small. And so we'll see how this next flight goes in May.
absolutely, man. Do you have any advice for people that are wanting to go over there as far as, first of all, the flight, right? Getting your passport's the biggest, I feel the passport is the biggest hurdle. It takes a
Yep.
little bit of time. You got to have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted. But once you have your passport in hand and you book your flight, do you have any tips or tricks for people that are flying over there? Like, is it worth the money to just fly over there in basic? Should you bump, like, assuming that they fly with Delta, right? Because there's a few different airlines that fly to Joburg.
Yep.
But
Yep.
is it worth the money to fly in basic? Should you upgrade to main or comfort plus if you can afford it, or should you like just go all out and go like first class in that?
Oh, dude, no,
Um,
there's no way. So like I look at it at like this, okay? So basic economy, you're gonna look anywhere between I've seen as low as 1,200 and I've seen as high as like 18. And then when you get into like comfort plus, you're that 18 to like 22 range. Anything more than that, I look at it like, for instance, like business class is like 44, $4,500. So I look at that, at least half that flight could be one extra animal that I take home.
I think that's what trips a lot of people up about it is like, oh man, flights to Africa are so expensive. Well, they don't have to be. Are you going to be as comfortable in basic as you are, say, comfort?
I
No.
mean, the
It's a
really,
little tighter quarters, but
yeah,
you're only getting like what, 3 inches of seat space and 4 or 5 inches of legroom going
something like
comfort.
something like that. And to me, like I don't know, dude. No matter, I don't think honestly. And see, like first class, you're paying like $10,000 for the seat. Um, to me, if I was to do anything, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't go over. It's like basically like business class. Your chair kind of comes out a little bit. You're paying like 4 grand for the ticket. But see, when I pay for my tickets, I I plan out my hunting trip 9 months in advance.
So you're getting a way better rate than somebody that like books their ticket 3 or 4 months out from their hunt.
Yes. And sometimes you can get lucky. Like in 2021 when I did mine, I bought my ticket 3 weeks before I left.
Mhm.
And it was $2,600.
See, that's still not bad.
And then when I bought my ticket just this year, I paid $1,800 and I'm doing Comfort Plus.
If you got the
My
money to
my biggest
spend,
thing, my biggest thing, if you are looking to do Africa, and I don't care like if you do your research or if you just want to will and deal, obviously there's so many you just got to be careful of what you do because you can get hosed with the fine line of pain and things like that. So if you're looking at going over, I would seriously talk to people, go to expos, do actual research on outfits and email and things like that and get a full list of prices and things like that. But my biggest thing is if you're gonna do it, the best thing you can do is buy that plane ticket because then it makes you have skin in the game.
you're at that point committed, at least to
Yes.
an extent,
Yes.
because they don't charge. Don't quote me on this because again, never been. So for all of our listeners, Africa is something I really want to do. Hopefully, I'm going to get to do it this year. But they don't charge a lot of money for a deposit, right? It's like
No.
a
So I know
couple
some
hundred to
outfits.
1,000.
Yep. Yes. Some out you got to be, and that's the biggest thing you got to be cautious on, because some outfitters they want 30% of what like your hunting package is gonna be.
Right.
Okay. I've seen it as high as 30%. I've seen it as low as 10%. The outfit that I run with is directly $1,000 down. It doesn't matter if you are gonna do 50 animals or one animal. $1,000 will hold your spot. And what's really cool is the guys like if it's just you like, oh, I can't make it, I want to move my date and things like that, like if you don't really have any like good reasoning behind it, they're kind of firm on like their price, like okay, no, you committed to this day, things like that. But if you actually have something come up, whether maybe death in the family or like maybe job or work has gotten crazy and you can't make those dates, or there's a family emergency or things like that, 99% of the time the guys we hunt with, dude, they're more than willing to maneuver the dates around a little bit to help make it easier on you. The cool thing about it is the outfit that we hunt with, they they like having it to where when you come to hunt, you're the only person there, or like if you're bringing a group or whatever, you're the only group there.
They
So
don't
you're
double
not
book or overbook.
yeah, so you're not competing for like that, what I call like that one-on-one connection. And that's what I really like about them, because when you get there, yeah, you're the client and outfit, but by the time you leave, you're friends and family.
Say that's an important thing for people to do as well is build that relationship with their guide or their outfitter because I have a few clients every year and we stay in contact from the time they book their hunt until years after their hunt.
Yeah,
They always want to
100%.
know like, hey man, like how's the family? How you doing? Everything going good? What are you up to? What's new in the world? You got any cool hunts coming up or you got anything different this year or you got new property or whatever. It's important
Right.
to stay like on that friends and family side with your
Well, look,
outfitter, assuming that you like your outfitter. There's a lot of people that an outfitter or a guide and them their personalities didn't match or their guide was absent mentally on a lot of things or there's a whole litany of just different things that
right.
can happen
Oh,
but
100%. I'll say this is like, that's why I think I've been blessed with the bits of hunting that I've done. Um, because now that I have been doing it and I've been putting more skin in the game and trying to buy, because I am buying the animals basically, like going over and doing these hunts, you know, to me is like I have that connection. Even the guys that I hunted with in Canada, I still talk to them probably maybe once every couple months, because the cool thing about it is once you keep that good connection, say they have a cancellation come up and you were always really good to work with and things like that. That's how you can get better deals.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you
it's
or for instance, you have a good connection with these guys, they'll try to do the best they can on getting you, whether it may not be on their property, maybe it's on someone else's property, but they're going to give you the best deal they can for your animal because of the connection that you guys have.
it's not always necessarily a monetary thing either. So like if I have a client that comes in and he wants to shoot an aoudad and it's during mule deer season, well I don't have mule deer where I hunt aoudad, so I'll call another ranch or message another ranch and be like, hey, I've got a guy that really wants a mule deer today. What's is there any chance we can get him in? Oh yeah, no problem. This is the price. Perfect. I'll actually just give the client that ranch's price. I'm not going to mark it up because he's already come and spent money with me.
Yeah,
Let's go have fun and go hunt something else too while we're here. And so it's I'm sure whenever you're talking about like them going to other concessions, they've got to make a little bit of money because they've got a whole lot more travel in their
right.
deal. It's not like, and I'm sure there are some instances where it is like the next door neighbor across the road, but
Yeah.
some of those concessions are an hour or more away. So they've
So
got to
like,
make a little bit there to cover that cost, but they're going to still cut you a pretty solid deal.
right. So all perfect example. Um, you know, this year I'm hunting a lion.
Mhm.
Well, obviously on their property and things like that, they don't carry lions. So we're going to the Kalahari, which one of their really good outfitter friends, they do the they do all the lion hunts.
Okay.
You know, when you see like on YouTube and things like that, there's only like a couple outfitters in the Kalahari that just do specifically all they do is lions.
Sweet.
And so they got a really good connection with them. I've kind of been talking with them and things like that. The only hard thing that I'm having to do for the travel, it's like, okay, do you want to drive 12, 14 hours or do you want to fly 3 hours? Here's the price for travel in the car. Here's the price for the plane. So I'm renting a plane, and basically they've cut me the deal because luckily enough, one of the PHs is a pilot as well. So I'm basically renting the plane and paying for fuel. I don't have to pay for anything. I'm not paying. I mean, I've already paid for the lion, but I'm not having to add anything else, or there's no surcharges or things like that.
What? if somebody listening to this is wanting to, they're really considering or they're on the edge of considering going to Africa, what is a good starter package or an intro package of animals that you would recommend for like a first timer in Africa?
Honestly, I would say in mine, I would say a lot of people they call it the budget package.
Mhm,
So budget package is like your zebra, your wildebeest, your impala, and your blesbok.
mhm.
I would have the intentions of doing those because most of the time those are anywhere between they're under 5 grand, all four animals. It's like 4,500
5 grand
bucks,
for the whole package.
5 grand for the whole package. Um, but I would have in mind when you get over there, maybe there might be like an oryx or a kudu or maybe a red hartebeest. Um, maybe something on the little bit upper trophy class.
Mhm.
I would look into maybe adding one extra animal, but that would be after in mind of you know getting your package accomplished, because I promise, if depending on the outfit obviously and things like that, but I can guarantee if you go over there and you shoot, just say you just stick to the basic plains game, those four animals, I would highly doubt that you would never go back over there. I bet you within 5 to 6 years, you would be that bug would hit you again, and you'd be wanting to go back over.
Yeah, it's from everybody that I've ever talked to that's been to Africa, it's one of those things, once it gets in your blood, you just want to keep going back. And it's not necessarily just for the animals. It's to go hang out with that outfitter again. Yes, you're still going to go over there and hunt because, from my understanding, you're not, it's not that you're not welcome to go over there and hang out, right? But if you're going to go over there and you're going to spend the money to fly over there, you might as well spend the coin and go hunt. Cross another item off your bucket list
Right.
while you're there. And
Well,
the more go ahead.
for me, I was gonna say, like, honestly, like, this next trip that I'm going over there, I've extended my days 3 days, and while we're going over there, um, I told him, I was like, look, if we can get these animals, great. If not, dude, let's go golf. Let's go into the city. Show me other parts besides you know your outfit. Let's go check out other concession. Um, so like I'm doing a whole bunch. Like, for instance, the things that are on my list is the lion, the hippo, and the giraffe. But in the meantime, let's go golf. Let's go explore. Take me what you guys normally do when in your off season on a weekend with your friends.
Right. Like, let's just go hang out as buddies.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that completely. I've taken a few clients, they've come and hunted with me or whatever. We kill out early, and I'll go take them, to another part of the state that they've never been to or that they've never seen before, just to kind of hang out and kill some time while essentially either they're waiting for another flight or or I'm waiting for another client to get into camp.
yeah,
And it is kind of fun to go, also be a tour guide while being a guide and outfitter.
right. And I think to me, I think that's kind of where you also develop your bond between client and outfitter.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's so important. And I don't. I mean, I've hunted. You know, in the last 8 years, I've hunted with a handful of different outfitters and things like that. But because I've done my research and talked to people, and because a lot of times, most time when you get to whoever outfitter you end up going with, it's usually by word of mouth.
That
It's
is
usually
that is one of the best sellers for outfitters is word of mouth.
it's to me, it's like, and that way, with the few outfitters that I know that are in Africa, it'll be hard to sell me unless I obviously go to like Zambia or Mozambique. Then I'll do my research again. But it'll be hard to sell me to get away from the outfit and the guys I use, because I've developed that bond. I've even used some other good guys that they even know, and it was like, I don't want to say disappointment, but it was like, well, we could have got you those animals too. I will say outfitter to outfitter in South Africa is very competitive.
which it's competitive stateside, but everything I've heard, it's like magnified over there.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they almost, not saying that they're being selfish or, again, I'm not speaking from a place of experience. I'm speaking from secondhand
Oh,
stories or knowledge,
I'll
right?
and that's for me from experience. Like even the guys that I hunt with and things like that, they're like, "Oh, that's cool that you got that," but it was almost kind of like like how when you were a younger kid and your dad's like, "Well, I'm not mad at you. I'm just disappointed."
Yeah.
It was like that mentality, and it was like, but they were still happy with the trophies that I brought home and things like that. Um, but it definitely was like, oh, I totally see it. And then working with the expos, seeing other South Africans and things like that, it's very, very, very competitive. I feel, but you also have to look on it. That's their livelihood.
For
Like
sure.
like any like any outfitter,
Yeah.
with you selling hunts and things like that. It you still have to market your business, but it's also on the same standpoint is how can I keep my clientele returning every few years?
And that's got to be difficult for them because while there are a lot of outfitters, well, I'll speak on the US side of this, right? There are, God, I would say, I don't know, 100,000 outfitters
Oh,
or
easy.
guides across this country, right? About 50% of those are just, lack of better terms, dirtbags.
Oh,
Like
100%.
they're just in it to make money. They don't give a shit if you kill, if you don't kill. They don't care about the client. They care about the money end of it. While the money is great, all it takes is one of those bad hunts, and you're having to work 10, 15, 20 times harder to offset that one negative. Those
Yes.
guys in Africa, like the time you get there, and this is secondhand knowledge. So that from the time you get there till the time you get home, you are treated as if nothing else in the world matters except for you being happy.
100%.
And
100%.
that's with the ones that have established, not necessarily a following, but they've established themselves as a reputable outfitter in Africa. You were
Yeah.
treated like you're the only person on the planet. Anything you anything you want within reason, they're going to go full extent as hard as they can to ensure that that's what happens.
Another example, dude. I was bringing last year or 2022 when I went over there. Um, I was getting all my bags packed and things like that, and I set my hiking boots to the side, and I was loading up because I was bringing quite a bit of stuff over for them because a lot of stuff they can't get in South Africa, so I was bringing it over from the states for like reloading purposes and things like that. Well, I forgot my hunting boots when I got over there. That time of year, it's the rainy season, so everything was always muddy. Well, I have some. They're Freedom Industry shoes. They're kind of like those cross country like Solomon shoes. Well, that's all I had. So every day they'd be soaked, wet, muddy, nasty, and every night they would come grab them from my bedroom and they would wash them, dry them, and then they would have them on the doorstep every morning.
That's amazing. Like that level of customer care, clientele care, even to know that,
Like,
like, hey, I forgot my boots, I've got these shoes, and the fact that they took time, a little bit extra time out of their day
yep,
just to ensure your comfortability during your stay there, that speaks volumes about like kind of the way they should that we should do things stateside as outfitters. We should
Dude,
try almost try to mirror what they do.
they were gonna go back into Johannesburg or Pretoria, which is, that 3 hour drive. They're gonna
Right.
go back into the city and go buy a set of boots for me.
Jeez. That's dedication.
You know,
That's level of care that
and
I feel a lot of
that's
the
that's
US
the
outfitters don't have.
that's the thing is like I will say this, man. If you can find a good outfitter in Africa, that's how a big portion of them are. Even when I went and did my bow hunt last year in 2023, it was a smaller property. They had two sections of 2,000 acres. Um, but dude, it was strictly bow hunting. So it was no shooting with a rifle or anything like that. It was strictly bow hunting, blind, spot and stock, whatever we could find. Same thing, dude. Laundry every day. Clothes were folded at the end of the day. My clothes were folded at the end of my table, in end of my bed with a chocolate on the pillow. My bed pulled down, ready to go to bed. Um, they made sure my bow was taken care of. I hardly ever had to carry it. Um, like even a smaller like establishment that's not really has like a whole lot of following or people know about, I was still treated like I was the number one person there.
It's
And
important.
I
I
and
mean,
I
you're
and I feel I don't want to say that obviously for all outfitters, but I feel that's like hunting in South Africa, especially. I feel that's how they cater it because they want you to come back. Because going to South Africa is a lot easier than it is to go to Mozambique, Zambia, Tanzania, per se.
it's I don't know. Like I'm excited to go over there.
Dude,
Obviously, you get the
I can't,
first time jitters or nervous about it, but I'm just excited to experience like what that is like.
and dude, it's from one side of their property to the other side of the property. You'll go through like, there's like three different styles of terrain.
Hmm.
Like you have the mountains, you have the sandy like plains. I wouldn't equate it to like the Serengeti, but it's sandy, big mesquite trees, things like that. And then you get into the lower ends where there's a lot of water, tall grass, big trees. So you go into like three different styles of environments while you're hunting. And what's crazy in each different styles of those environments are different species of animals.
So now it's not that there's cross fences that keep animals from going into different areas. That's just it's one big
Yep,
open map, right? On
yep,
that place.
yep. It's one big open map. The only thing they have, like, they have a back section that's about 500 acres that they keep fenced off from the big section, and that's if someone wants a specialty animal, like something that it's not necessarily accessible on their property, um they will purchase that animal at auction and put it into that 500-acre area, so they know that they're not looking in a 30,000 area place. They can go narrow down and say, okay, we're going to look for this. We still have to hunt it and get it, but at least we know it's in this section.
It's no different than a lot of these, Texas high fence ranches. Um, a lot of them are stocked, and the animals you're hunting have been born and bred there. But a lot of times, like, okay, if a client calls me and says, "Hey, I need a fallow with 12-inch palms," just a mega giant fallow, I'm going to call around to a couple auctions, figure out where that fallow is, and then
Right,
I'm going to buy it and go turn it out on one of the ranches. So this way the client has what he wants.
right.
It's no different from the sounds of it. It's no different than over there.
The only thing I know from over there is like your more common stuff: kudu, gimsbuck, um, blue wildebeest, zebra, all that stuff. They keep in their big 30,000 acre portion because it's all there's no they don't have a breeding farm. They don't have any of that stuff. It's all natural done, through the rut and things like that. Like your more specialty animals, you know, uh, some sable, roan, maybe a king's wildebeest or a royal. I mean, we're talking when I say specialty, like we're talking like high end stuff that's like $8,000 a pop.
Your bigger ticket items. You know,
Yeah,
obviously some places in Africa you can't hunt elephant, or you can, but they're not importable or
right,
exportable, depends on how you look at it.
right.
Rhinos, like your lion, leopards, things like that in certain areas are not. Those are like super high end animals, but the things that like you were talking about, the king's wildebeest, or what is it? It's a Lord Derby's eland.
Yeah, so a Lord Derby you'll only find in like over in the Congo in West Africa or
Okay,
Central
so
Africa.
they're kind of over there with like the bongos and
Yep.
those types of different animals.
Yeah. But what like I mean like a lot of like say your color phases, like your
Yeah.
saddleback impala, your black impala, um maybe like a white blesbuck or a copper blesbuck or your saddleback blesbuck and things like that. Some of your more odd species rather than just your basic plains game stuff.
Mhm.
Um that's what they'll put some of those animals over in that section because they still got to go find them and hunt them and things like that, but it's less work for them to try to look in a 30,000 acre property
For sure.
because you're
And
not
people,
if they go and bought a 60-inch kudu and released it into their main quarter, they would never
yeah,
see that animal again.
no, not a chance. They don't call them gray ghosts for no reason.
So it's that type of stuff. But dude, like I say, um like if you're looking on it, like my biggest thing is like any trip, do the research, go to expos, talk to people, talk to your friends, talk to a friend of a friend. Or even on here, man, like my Instagram is Master of the Little People. Um, you know, reach out. Like I'd be more than glad to help, chat, whatever. Austin, I know we've talked a couple times. I'm excited
Yeah,
that you're looking at wanting to go and kind of check this off on your experience because I promise when you do it, you'll want to do it again. Especially coming
for
on
sure.
the outside this time that you're not the outfitter, you're the hunter.
Right. And it's such an odd being an outfitter is it's fun. Don't ever get me wrong. Like I am never downplaying the amount of excitement I have every time I go take a client out. But as an outfitter, we don't get to hunt a whole lot.
No.
It's we're always taking somebody else hunting, or like, I'm not going to shoot that animal because I have a client that could potentially want one that's that big. So I'm going to pass it up, even though knowing like I have the opportunity to do it. There's just
Yep.
always that part of you that stays reserved in it. That's like, man, I'm not going to do it. It's taken away from a future client. So
Right.
to go over there and like not have that worry, and more so just like the experience of seeing something different, something that
Dude,
you only saw on
it's gonna be
hunting
one.
shows, right? Like you were talking about earlier, the Jim Shockeys, Fred Bear,
Yep.
um, the Drurys, you know, f- pick your favorite hunting celebrity. But
Yeah.
to finally be in a place where you can go do that or have the opportunity to go do it, I think that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, dude. And I can't wait because knowing where you're going, like, dude, it's going to be a blast. Um, like I could talk on Africa and I'm nowhere like super experienced in it. Like I've only done it, I've hunted it 3 years now. But I know it's become a big part of me. You know, after my first trip going, I was like, dude, I'm hooked. And that's where it's like, dude, I'm going to hunt the Dangerous Seven. I'm going to hunt the Spiral Horn Slam. I'm going to hunt the Tiny 10. Like that's
Which
those those three things are like on my list.
you're only lacking what an animal or two on your tiny.
No, so I got 3 of the 10. I need
Okay.
7.
You need
Uh,
7. I got you.
and then I have 2 of the dangerous 7. And depending on how this trip goes, I may come back with 2, or I may come back with 3 more from the dangerous 7.
That'll be awesome. I can't
So
wait to see like
there's one animal on there that it may happen, depending on time and things like that. I'm not divulged to say what it is yet.
right.
Um, but hopefully, if things work out the way I hope they are, because they still have to have the permit for it. But they own those animals there, but we still have to get the permits.
So, but yeah, dude, that's awesome. Like to know that you have like these set 3 slams or these set 3 goals that you want to go over there and accomplish. It's really neat because there's animals over. You've got North America's big game
Yep,
slam. You've got the sheep slam. You've got the 41 waterfowl slam. Your turkey slam. Your world turkey slam. But to go have like that same slam, I call them slams, but to
yeah,
have that
that's
same kind of goal over in
yeah.
Africa, it's
Well,
it's really neat.
and to me, it's like, dude, I've done some hunting here. I've What's crazy about it is I've been more successful, obviously, going over and hunting in Africa than I have here in the States. Um, but two, it's all based off of not necessarily concession, but conservation. The conservation that they
Absolutely.
provide and that they do in other countries besides the U.S., it blows the U.S. off the charts.
Oh, 100%. A lot of people have this weird mentality here that like, oh, the only time I'm ever going to see this is now, so I'm going to shoot it. They're shooting what I had my buddy Heath on, and he said he's got an uncle that his motto is we're shooting tomorrow's trophies today. Africa, with who you guys go with, obviously not all of Africa is this way, from my understanding, but who you guys go with, you're not targeting just anything. You're targeting the oldest, the most mature animals. Horn length
Yes,
doesn't matter to me, in my opinion, and a bunch of the people in my circle. Horn length or antler length does not really matter. We don't play the game by inches, we play it by age.
right. Well, for instance, the year I took in 2021, I went with a group. We both took kudus,
Mhm.
and his kudu was only like 45 inches, and mine was 53. But the mass on his and the worn and the old, like you could tell that thing was a freaking warrior. Like he had scars up and down his face, and he was just beat down. And you look at mine, and it was like his horns were like hardly any rub on them. Like it was almost like he was in the prime of his life rather than being the old geezer grandpa guy. Um, but both kudu were huge trophy animals. Hunting over there, they understand that you've traveled all this way. They're not gonna, and they physically, I passed up. I couldn't tell you how many impala or wildebeest or kudu or whatever that we were hunting. How many times we passed up because it wasn't quite what they were wanting me to have.
I think the United States, I talk a lot about Texas because it's now at 32 years old, I've hunted a majority of my life in this state. But I feel this state and this country, I feel we have a lot to learn from Africa. Their
Dude,
management
we have a lot to
practices
learn
seem to
from.
be better.
And I would say international. The U.S. has a lot to learn in conservation. I feel
Mhm.
in hunting.
Because if you're shooting, you know, quotes, tomorrow's trophy today, you're not leaving anything for the next generation to hunt. And I feel that's where we fall short stateside.
100%.
It's could I load my rifle up and go out during whitetail season in Texas and shoot the first deer that walks out? Absolutely. We're not. under any sort of shortage of whitetail. But I mean, shit, last year I went without shooting one. The year before I shot one, but he was like a 7.5-year-old 7 point. Just you could tell he was kind of on his last leg. But the reason I feel the way I feel about hunting mature animals over just anything is just for the fact of like my kids are gonna want to grow up and hunt.
Right. I'm the same way, dude. I'm 30. I turned 39 this year, and granted, I haven't obviously. There was a stint in there for like 10 years that I never even hunted. I didn't really start getting wildly hunting like crazy until I was about 30. Um, and I've only taken two and they're not even that great, but to me, they're two decent mule deer. Like before, you know, I would try to go shoot one or things like that, and it just never, it didn't work out. Obviously, I wasn't that successful. But the two that I have, they mean more than any of the deer that I see on my some of my friends' walls because I mean, they might be giants, but and I was with them with a couple of them that they took, but it's like these small guys to me because it was my work that I was able to get them. That's what means more. I mean, I haven't even killed a bull elk. I've killed cows and I've killed a calf, but I've never killed a bull.
And I don't know, it's just a different we're in a weird phase in the hunting world, right? Like social media has become such a massive thing.
Oh, it's
I would
crazy.
say in the last 15 years now. And even more so sooner than that, the last, I would say 5 to 7 years,
Yeah, I
there's
can
been a
say
lot of,
has just gone bananas to see who could kill the biggest animal.
right. Inches are cool, right? Like inches definitely have their place. But what happened to the days where people were taking their kids out and their kids would shoot, a spike on youth weekend,
Yep.
which I have zero issue with whatever a kid kills, right? Whatever they hunt, as long as they're out hunting.
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
I'm right I'm right there with them. 100%. I'd love to see our younger generation and having like the dads and maybe even the younger dads and things like that step aside and letting their kids take their first couple animals so then they can understand, and then once they start to get older be like, no, we're going to pass on this. Show them that it's not, going hunting is great to harvest an animal, but it's not always the purpose of going out there to hunt. I look at it as, like those three things, like I said at the beginning, my experience in going out there, what I learned from going out there, and what do I need to change in my hunting knowledge for next time.
what could I have done differently every hunt to be better the next time I set a field?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if we don't start teaching this younger generation the things that we believe in the hunting world, we are going to lose that right. I this is a bold statement and it's not a popular opinion. I feel we're on the verge of like the next 20 years of completely losing our hunting rights.
Yeah, I'm that is not too far behind you.
I mean, look at Colorado is trying to ban lion hunting with dogs. California has banned lion hunting with dogs, bear hunting. Look at all these laws that are getting passed to kind of curb the hunting and the outdoor industry.
Not only that, but for instance, last year in Wyoming, just in
Hmm.
around my hometown, the winter was hit so hard that it devastated. It killed 99% of the antelope fawn population, and along with the deer population. Only 1% of the fawns that were born last year survived through winter of deer and antelope and elk.
And while we may not see the immediate effects of that this year and next year, the third year you're going to start seeing those effects because your older generation of deer are going to die off. You don't
Yep.
have that birth gap there to cover that die off.
Right.
And I fully believe with everything in me that, like I said, we are going to lose our hunting rights at some point in time, whether it's in our lifetimes or our kids' lifetime. That's to be determined, unless
Yep.
there's some kind of significant change
Oh,
in the
absolutely.
outdoor industry. And
Absolutely. Like,
I, I think by having like, somebody like you on that you enjoy hunting, you hunt a lot, you have a lot of knowledge about hunting. I'm hoping that this episode kind of gets people thinking. Not only, obviously, if you're booking hunts in Africa, you're supporting a massive conservation effort.
oh,
The
huge.
ant the antis don't see it as conservation if you're killing, but a bullet is a far faster way to die, or an arrow is a far faster way to be taken from this planet than disease, poaching, um,
Oh, dude,
you
yeah,
know,
it's not good over there with the poaching and things like that. And dude, Austin, I appreciate, you calling and let me get on your podcast. This has been
yeah,
awesome.
dude.
I hope, what we've talked about and things like that with your listeners and things, that it's beneficial, and maybe even sparks an interest in some of your listeners of, reaching out and looking into, whether you hunt in Canada or, South Africa or other parts of Africa, but take that step and, really look into what would be a dream hunt or things like that. And I learned a long time ago that, in this life we can't, we might have $5 million in the bank, but we ain't gonna take it with us when we die. And so
No,
it's to enjoy the life now and to enjoy these experiences. And it may take you 5 years to save up to go to Africa or, wherever, but I would highly consider doing something like that, because once you do it, I promise you'll do it again and again and again.
absolutely. And every dollar spent over there is essentially a dollar put towards conservation.
Yep.
And that's we need more conservation and less antis, but until and the problem with talking to antis is it always falls on deaf ears, right?
Yep.
Very
You can.
few times have I engaged with an anti, and when I say anti, I mean anti-hunters. Um, Very few times that I've ever engaged with an anti-hunter have I ever been able to change their opinion.
Yeah, no, it's hard to change that concept, because that's what they've kind of gotten into their head. And it's hard to show them. And you could even physically show I've even physically showed them through, research and things like that, of data of conservation, whether it be even here in the United States or in any form of international hunting, how much it's helped. But yeah, it is a struggle on that side. But the only way that we can, help that is to keep talking about it.
Absolutely, keep putting it at the forefront of conversation, and that's what's going to help conservation.
Yep.
I know you plugged your Instagram and your social media a little bit ago, but if you would just kind of reiterate where people can find you, where they can follow along with you, your hunting story, your hunting journey, and if they have any questions about, maybe hunting in your neck of the woods, or if they have questions hunting anywhere, Africa, Canada, anything like that, let people know where to find you. And also
Yeah.
at the end of that, if you don't mind, give the listeners like one piece of solid advice.
Yeah, no, my biggest thing is, so you can find me on, my name's Adam Atkinson on Facebook, and then Master of the Little People, all spell all one word, on Instagram. And the last bit of advice that I could say is, buy the plane ticket where you want to hunt and go.
Do the damn thing.
Yep, that's exactly it. Just do it.
Awesome. Well, hey man, it's been great having you on, and can't wait to see photos and stuff from your trip in May to Africa.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Austin.
Absolutely, brother. We'll catch you later.
All right, bye bye.